You're listening to the Floyd Main Street Podcast. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. I'm your host, Lucas Graham, back for another edition of this week's Floyd Main Street Podcast. Joining us are our guest host. I don't know if I should call him guest host at this point because they're with us every time. Our co-host, Mr. Eric Branscombe. How you doing today?
In uniform and on duty and ready to go.
Let's go. Chad Harris, he's also joining us today. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man.
Good. We got plenty of topics to cover this week in Floyd, from some court convictions to meetings at Indian Valley Rescue Squad, some protests, and a recovered stolen trailer.
That's exciting.
That one is good. I look forward to talking about that one. We'll just dive right into it. Let's start with those court convictions because I know, Eric, that there was a case that come up and some charges for some witness threats. It was in the news.
Right. That's something we don't have very often. It all grew out of something from last September. There was a dispute between a couple of neighbors in Indian Valley or in the Duncan's Chapel Road area, and trespassing charges came out of that. And they were set to be heard on December 19th. And the night before, the defendant in this matter apparently showed up outside his house, a fellow by the name of Greg Akers, and there were some death threats shouted at him from where Mr. Akers was on the adjoining property. Mm-hmm. Our witnesses could identify exactly who it was and what they were saying. And this went to trial because in Virginia, that's a felony. So when he reported that the next day, because he showed up, the threat was, if you show up in court, I'll kill you. And so when he showed up for court the next day, he reported that exactly what was going on. And we had some papers issued on him right then and there. And that went through the court process. We had a full trial last Tuesday afternoon. Mm-hmm. And we had witnesses testify. And, of course, he was claiming that he didn't do it and that he wasn't there. But it wasn't enough for the judge because our witnesses were very strong and identified him, had good basis for that. And plus the fact that he was screaming all that about them just the day before going to trial. So the judge found him guilty of that. And he's facing a 5-year penitentiary prison term on that. It's a felony charge to threaten a witness in court. And we don't get that very often. Most of the time, people just go to court and battle it out there. So anytime you threaten a witness, the courts take it very seriously because the whole process relies on people coming into court and testifying openly and honestly and getting things done. And when you try to interfere with that process, that's when things get, stepped up as getting serious. So that's what happened for Mr. Akers. So he's incarcerated at the moment.
He was probably still on probation for drug-related.
He is. He's what came out in court is that he's on state probation and federal probation.
Yeah, so he was involved in a federal investigation, if I remember correctly, where they located him at the restaurant in Christiansburg. During that point of contact with him, he tried to run over a couple police officers, and he was shot during that incident. And he served, I believe, 12, 15 years. He had just gotten out about a year ago.
And he had state charges for robbery and an abduction. So there was someone involved in that. So he had a very violent criminal past. So we were glad to be able to go ahead and proceed with that. So what will happen next is that he'll be due to be sentenced by the judge sometime in September. And then we'll deal with the state level probation. And in the meantime, I don't know, the feds may go ahead and decide what they want to do with him on their own, because that's a whole different system from ours, but that's up to them. But I know that they were all over this.
Yeah. Like you said, it's not something that comes through a lot. And on top of that, if there are threats, they usually come via like indirect threats.
Exactly.
Maybe more vague, open-ended, something that can't be directly
sometimes
tied
on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. But
we've worked those.
Yes, we have.
But to make those direct threats like that, like you said, it interrupts due process and the legal system, and that's not okay. And sounds like a pretty serious charge for doing that.
It is a serious charge, and we took it seriously right from the get-go.
Yeah. In other news and pertaining to law in the county, Chad, I think the sheriff's office, if I heard right, they was able to recover a stolen trailer for a local citizen that had been his construction trailer stolen from him.
That's right. It was out in the Willis area. He had reported it stolen to law enforcement. I believe it was around the first part of the month of June. He wasn't real sure the last time he had saw it. I think it had been over a week since he had been out on this particular job site before he realized. It's kind of one of those cases where the sheriff's office has a good working relationship with Patrick County, and our investigators were able to communicate, but we were able to get the trailer back to its rightful owner.
Now, what kind of trailer are we talking about? Just like a like a livestock trailer or a trailer you live in? What are you talking about?
This is a dump trailer. I'm trying to think of the brand name. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it was a real pretty fancy dump trailer. I don't think it'd be just a little...
Yeah, you're talking probably a $10,000 trailer.
Okay.
Easily.
I know he spoke with the guy that had the trailer stolen from him, and he was just so thankful. The sheriff's office was able to work diligently to get it, but so like Chad said, working together with your neighbors.
And I'll tell you, our investigators, they're all hard-working bunch, and they've been very successful when it comes to locating stolen property and solving cases, B&Es, and things like that. They work great as a team, and they're just a good bunch of guys. And at the end of the day, they get the job done, man.
Well, that's not an isolated incident. I remember something from about 2-3 years ago when you had a fellow that broke into an elderly lady's house in Indian Valley and stole a number of items, including like a lawnmower, and hauled it away on a trailer. And it was found down in Carroll County because they helped us with that, and that helped us find the guy who stole that. Then it was another year or so before track him down because he's one of those just kind of slipped all over the place, and he's ended up pulling a couple of years for that. But that was with the efforts with Carroll County helping out in that instance. A lot of close cooperation, and I think it works out for everybody in Floyd and Carroll.
Yeah, you got to be able to communicate with your neighboring jurisdictions. I guess it was Ted Bundy that taught law enforcement that. Kind of changed the way police looked at communicating with one another as far as, firing up multi-jurisdictional task forces and things of that nature.
I think it's when they all realized that, the crimes cross jurisdictions, we better work together too, because before Ted Bundy, there wasn't the term serial killer. I don't think that was really...
We do stay in touch. I regularly stay in touch with most of our surrounding Commonwealth Attorney's Office. Certainly, I know Roanoke County recently, they're helping us out because they picked up the case with the people being threatened in the courthouse, and they picked up that prosecution. So they've been coming up here and calling and working with us. Just like we did one for them not too long ago in a similar circumstance. They had their personnel threatened in the courthouse.
Good deal. Eric, what do we know about the Indian Valley Rescue Squad was looking at having a meeting?
Oh, yes. On a different subject.
Let's moving on, but I'm curious to hear about this one.
As you know, the Indian Valley lost its rescue squad because one of the problems that they're just having with changing regulations and problems with volunteers. And so at the moment, I don't believe they have a rescue squad set up down there. And an interesting bit of cooperation between ingoing and outgoing supervisors. Apparently, the county administrator had a meeting set with Mr. Phillips, who's the incoming supervisor, and Kalinda Bechtold, the outgoing supervisor, was also involved in that meeting. Basically, it's going to be a matter of them having to see what they can do, but there's movement in that area to try to get things done with it. It's good to see that the supervisor that's in there now and the supervisor that'll be coming in both seem to be willing to work together to try to get something done, because it's all for the benefit of Indian Valley.
Oh, yeah.
I believe they staff that rescue squad during high-volume times. Isn't that
That's right. It's something that rotates, isn't it?
Kaylinda. If you're listening, Kaylinda, apologize for getting your name wrong yet again. She talked about in our interview with her, I remember her bringing that up, that very specific thing, that working together, and we appreciated her coming on. It's unfortunate she wasn't a part of that meeting, because her term doesn't end until the end of the year, correct?
That's right, till December.
Yeah.
So at the moment, Mr. Phillips is the only person on the ballot. There was no Democrat to come out, and there's no one running as an independent. There's been some rumbles out there of a possible write-in candidacy, but I haven't really seen anything concrete so far.
Moving on, there was a No Kings protest 2.0 that was held in Floyd. And I don't know how much information had been dispersed about it, how many people knew about it, but ultimately I don't believe there was much of a crowd at all. I think if you were to count with your hands, you'd be able to count the entire crowd and might even had a few fingers left over.
The first one was back on June 14th.
Yeah.
And you had somewhere between 200 to 300 people.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more. I don't know. There was an exact count taken that a lot of people came out for that. I think that was more highly organized and pushed. Then I remember seeing that people were pushing on Facebook to try to come out again. And this was done in several places because it was, I think Roanoke City also had another one. I don't know. I think there was a push to have something done in Christiansburg, but it didn't look like it got off the ground too much for Floyd.
Yeah, I don't think so. However, there was a big crowd at the small town summer. I have it on good authority from our production team that it was a very good crowd. The band was good, and it was a really good night.
Yeah, I heard that was their largest turnout that they've ever had. And I was wrong, and I mentioned last week that I thought that every time that they have their small town summer, they have a movie. That's not right.
It's not every time.
No, it's only a couple of times apparently this year.
Could you say that again?
That Chad told me that and he was wrong.
There you go. And then we can end up with what happened last night was the fireworks show here in Floyd. And I know that in years past there's been a different size crowd, some years more so than others, but I can tell you last night I saw more people at the high school than I think I've seen in years, maybe ever. Easily 2,500, 3,000 people there, easily.
Oh, nice.
They had food trucks set up. They had condensed everything to the parking lot and set everybody up in a circle that way. And I think condensing everything in together helped things. But having the food trucks, and you had all kinds of vendors there selling their products. And there was one of the food trucks there was selling shaved ice for the kids and snow cones and stuff. So it was a great family-friendly event. Big turnout, and the fireworks show was awesome.
How much watermelon did you eat?
I actually didn't eat any after we just talked about it.
I thought you were going to do that contest.
I missed out on it. I had an 8-month-old that was trying to inform me that he has a tooth about to come through in the front, and he was informing me via way of screaming.
Well, I guess we'll let you slide this time.
Talking about some music this week, we'll move on to that section because we know that here in Floyd in the summertime, there's two things that are synonymous: is Friday night jamborees and music on the weekends here in Floyd. But we'll start with the Thursday night coming up at the Floyd Country Store. Of course, every Thursday night they have the Honky Tonk Thursdays. This Thursday, July 10th, it will be Honky Tonk Thursdays with the High Hopes Honky Tonk Band. And that is a free event from Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. Keeping it at the Country Store on Friday night, you'll have the Friday Night Jamboree with the Twin Creeks String Band with Josh Blankenship. Twin Creeks String Band is a great group of local guys that can flat do some picking and play those instruments. And then Josh Blankenship, local guy, local pastor, phenomenal musician, can eat a mandolin up for dinner and spit it back out before you know what happened to you. So if you're into old-time string band music and bluegrass, this one, I can tell you right there, will be one you do not want to miss. If you don't make it to that one and you get out on Saturday, the Country Store Saturday, July 12th from 12 to 3 is doing Americana afternoons with the Wilder Flower and more. And this looks like a 3-piece female trio. Again, the theme of everything on Saturdays is Americana. Moving on to Dogtown, I only see one listed event upcoming for them. And Friday night, they're having the Mallet Brothers Band at Dogtown. Moving on to the Country Store, typically they announce some things later in the week, so we may not have all of their week's lineup for the posting of this. But as of right now, they have listed Saturday, July 12th, you've got the Wildmans and Dory Freeman live at the Country Store, and they are playing from 7 p.m. to about 9 p.m. Tickets are $25, $30 reserved. Kids 12 and under are $12.50, and you can pay $10 to watch the live stream version of this. That must have a pretty big following. I'm not familiar with them, but if the Country Store is ticketing at that kind of price.
You're our expert. If you don't have expertise, how's Chad supposed to know about it?
That's right. The live streaming, is that something that you see very often? I know during COVID that was a big thing.
It was, but a lot of those places were hosting it almost just to have something they didn't charge for. And I would think that would be a really cool thing, but it would really boil down to quality. Am I paying $10 for somebody to hold an iPhone? And live streaming, right. Or are we getting a direct feed into the board? But that's a whole different.
I don't know if they still do the radio show, the Floyd Country radio show.
Linda DeVito, doesn't she do that?
No, this was the one over at the Country Store.
They would do a live radio hour,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Musicians there. I forgot.
She's got something to do with the radio show.
Yeah, I think she does something out of Virginia Tech.
Yeah, she's over in Blacksburg.
We ought to have Linda on to talk about
The Winds of Change is her radio program.
That's right.
And she does all the weather on Facebook, so we ought to have her see if she can come around and talk to us.
Yeah, and her weather forecasting is spot on.
Yeah.
It really is.
We'll have to do some special episodes in the winter so she can break the news of the forecast. Eric, you got some good lineups coming for us for some other places, don't you, from music this week?
You mean as far as the music?
Yeah.
The Chateau Morissette Winery has a number of things going on. It looks like just about every Saturday and Sunday they've got music coming on. On July 19th, they've got Greg Wilson playing out there. On July 20th, Ryan Patterson. And then the following weekend, you've got Craig Vaughn on July 26th. And then on July 27th, they have Kinfolk, which is a Celtic folk band that's playing.
Interesting.
So it sounds like they're back to the weekends doing a lot of music. I remember they used to do these jazz Sundays.
I've been there, took my wife. We ate there it may have been a Saturday, and they had a guy there. He was just on a keyboard. It was just him, and he had a very just buttery smooth, like a Michael Bublé type voice, which fit the mood for that place. The food was fantastic, and I felt really bougie. And I remembered I'm just an old boy, grew up on a farm in Floyd. But for that night, I'll be fancy. Good place to go, though.
Well, it's kind of setting up as a picnic because they play it outside. Yeah. You set up on the hillside, and that's just good and relaxing time. Beautiful views.
And while we're still talking about music, remind everybody that Wildwood throughout the summer is having their car shows and music on Sunday afternoons. And they're doing, remind me again, I've already forgot how often do they do it at Wildwood.
The first weekend and the third weekend of every month.
Yeah, I've got the alternating weekends for the cruise-ins and the music jams, but on every Saturday they have live music there from 5 to 7, and you got a dance floor. That's when you need to get out there with that baby, and do some dancing,
do some flat footing. He's going to do some crawling first.
Learn some early on. Well, take the baby out there with you.
Yeah, that's right. Also coming up really soon here in Floyd, we've got 2 big music festivals. We'll start with the Replenish Festival.
Yeah,
guys, that's coming up soon, and I think it's Replenish Festival coming up here in Floyd on July, is it 12th?
July 12th. The site opens up on July 11th, this coming Friday, for people to go in and start camping, and then things start on July 12th. They're going to have lots of vendors out there for food and activities. I'm looking at the schedule, and it looks like things actually open up at noon.
Okay.
And you've got kid zones and horseback riding, archery, lots of merchandise vendors as well as food vendors going around there. I remember the last time I was there, they had great ice cream vendors. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, you got rubber duck races and then music on the main stage there. So that kind of goes through the whole day. And, of course, this is all more Christian-oriented. So you're going to have lots of worship services. You're going to have things like that going on through the whole time.
Yep. It is faith-based. I know the headliner this year is Cochran and Company. They've also got North Star Band, Tegan Morgan, and Chris McQuiston. Music, they usually have some nationally touring bands, worship bands, Christian bands. Sometimes it's Christian rock, but like you said, it's a completely faith-based festival and generally just fun for the whole family. You'll usually see some local faces. Our Sheriff, Brian Craig, I think, is a lot of times out there for the dunking booth, which
that's right.
To a kid, it might be really funny to dunk a grown-up, especially the sheriff, but man, I'd say sitting out there and the heat in that thing, you're just praying those kids hit the bullseye.
Yeah. That's a bit much. I've had to do that.
A lot of fun. I know a lot of people that have went to it, and especially the kids. It's like the kids are really the ones that leave out of that Replenish Festival loving it. I mean, they have an absolute blast.
And that's located out on Indian Valley Road at the Burnett Farm, right?
It is, yeah. The numeric address for that is 5430 Indian Valley Road, 5430 Indian Valley Road. And that is Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday. That's right. And the cost is $10 for adults, basically 13 and up. If you're age 6 to 12, it's $5, and 5 and under is free.
Not bad at all. The other one coming up, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not. It's a little thing called Floydfest. It's coming to...
Well, it's up and coming. I hear it's growing.
Yeah, they're working on it. It's coming up soon. For those who maybe don't know, I don't know anybody that wouldn't know, but they have moved locations. So if you head to Meadows-Adan, you will not be able to see the festival.
Just ask somebody that lives in check where it is.
Yeah, ask them what they think.
I'd be glad to tell you.
It's coming back. Now that I'm thinking this, I don't remember. I was going to mention who the headliners were, but I don't have it right on me. But tickets are, at this point, I would imagine, hard to come by.
Mm-hmm. And they've been doing a lot of extra work on the site. I haven't been out there this year. Chad, have you seen any kind of new improvements that they've made this year on the site?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've made a number of improvements this year as compared to last year. Mm-hmm. We just did a tour a couple of weeks ago. OmniBuild went in and built a big patio fireplace area with paving stones and all. It's beautiful. It really is. And they've put in some sidewalks and some different things. They're moving some location areas for VIP. And I think the venue is going to get better every year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful site.
Headlining. Can't leave that out because I brought it up and then forgot about it. The Black Crows, which is a pretty cool headliner.
Oh, yeah.
Mountain Joy, Government Mule, J.J. Gray, and Morpho. They've got a lot of other people here. I'm a big country music guy, so I see some names in here that are kind of buried. Kelsey Waldron, it's a great up-and-coming country artist, but a lot of niche. Jared Stout Band's a local band that's been put in the rotation of that. Sam Morrow, fantastic. He's kind of funk and rock and country all blended into one. A lot of great artists. And one thing I can say about Floydfest, that if I'm being truthful, is that, at least with the locals, you probably have heard at one time in your life called Floyd Hippie Fest. That's what it was labeled as first. And they had a very linear market, and it was funny. That's what all the locals, we would joke about it as. But now I'm telling you now, you'll find everything from mountain folk music to bluegrass to country to rock to reggae. I mean, they have it all up there. Yeah. They really do.
You know, when that festival first started, it was probably 2002, 2003, somewhere around in there. And the sheriff, Donnie Pratt at the time, had every one of us working that event. We only worked parking. You know, the festival was actually in Patrick County. So all of us were out working the parking area. And just to see some of the stuff that came in across country that I wouldn't drive across town.
That they drove it across the country.
But it went through, and we didn't have any really notable problems that I can recall, and it's just improved throughout the year. And of course, now they've moved over to Floyd.
Made it their home. They loved it so much.
Yeah.
Chad, what's going on with Plenty? We got any updates with that?
It looks like they're having another farm school.
Yeah, I saw that coming up on July 10th, it looks like, for people to learn more about just gardening and...
Yeah,
the fellow out there that does the gardening is just a master at his art.
Yeah, Farmer Sean, he gardens out there all year round, and he had put on a farm school, I think last month, and it was very successful. It went over really well, and so I guess they've decided to do another one. And he knows what he's talking about. He's really good at this farming and educating people. It's a wonderful thing.
Those wishing to be homesteaders.
Right, but that's on the 10th from 9:30 to noon. So something to mark on your calendars for that. The other thing I was going to bring up is that what a lot of people might not be aware of is that the Historical Society is up and running. They have the museum here in town. People have probably driven by it. It's past the courthouse. It's on the way to like Carter Bank, and you see it right there. And in the summers, they are open on Fridays and Saturdays from noon until 4 p.m. So you can go there, and they'll have occasional lectures and so forth. The main thing is you go there and you can see exhibits, publications, other things. People, they'll be there that can tell you some of the interesting history of Floyd County and the different way it's impacted the way things were and the way things are.
Good
so
deal.
That's one thing that I thought that interesting to bring up, because I know it's out there all the time, but we don't always mention it. It's a resource for everyone in the county, and everybody wants to come and visit.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to take a time real quick to thank our production team.
Oh, yes. We always have to thank our production team.
I didn't want to make sure it didn't get tagged on at the end as, oh, hey, I forgot.
Even though it generally is that you forget.
Even though I'm over here holding this sign up, don't forget.
Don't forget the production team. Do not seek the treasure. No, we thank the heck out of our production team, Mr. John Velitis and Big Country Cochran, for helping us out and making the magic work on that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you listen to this podcast on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe to it. It'll put it in your library automatically so that when the episode drops on Tuesday evenings, it's already there in your library ready to listen. But for everybody that's already liked our Facebook page, subscribed to us, that listens to the podcast every week, any combination, any part of those, we thank you.
Yeah, and hello to our friend from the Netherlands.
Or Mexico. There's one in Mexico too, apparently.
Yeah.
You have one from the Netherlands. We appreciate you. And if you happen to be listening to this episode, we'd love for you to comment. Leave a comment. Hey, I'm the one from the Netherlands. We want to know. And how do you know Floyd?
Here's the cliffhanger for next week. We have another Board of Supervisors meeting come up, so we know that we can all, for another spellbinding story from Chad Harris on watching the Board of Supervisors at work.
I can't wait.
After that, we'll be talking about a riveting day of watching paint dry. I've tried to watch those meetings, and I find myself, even if I'm like, all right, I want to watch it, even if this particular part doesn't specifically interest me, like I just get squirrel brain. I cannot sit and focus on the entirety of it.
And I will watch a little bit of it at work sometimes because it does pertain to our office and what we do. But I normally will have to watch it at home when I'm just by myself, completely, distraction free, so that I can actually focus enough to prepare some pretty good notes.
Yeah.
Because if not, somebody will come in your office and then you're talking to them and 15 minutes has went by and you don't even know what they're talking about.
Might as well start over. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The sad thing is that it's generally pretty dull and it's dry as can be, but it's really important for the way things are done in the county. I mean, it's where the taxpayers' money is being spent.
Yeah.
Impacts which roads are getting fixed. It impacts people much more directly than any of this stuff going on in Washington. I mean, we have things happening here that are really going to affect your home,
your day-to-day life,
here, how the schools where your kids go to work, all that's being impacted by what they're doing with the money here.
Yeah, the subdivision ordinance. People really need to start doing their research on this and getting in their supervisor representatives' ear on how they feel.
It's affecting who's going to build right next to you. How's it going to affect the water table? I mean, all of that. If you start having a well run dry, a couple of years from now, you're going to wonder what happened. It's like, well, those are the seeds that are being planted now.
Yeah, and there's studies out there that show that there's less water in around the town of Floyd than there were years ago. Mm-hmm. So, what's our water supply going to look like with 1,000 more houses or 10,000 more houses?
Is the Board of Supervisors taking that up? How much are they really paying attention to that? That's what we need to know.
Yeah. It's not a political matter. It's a infrastructural matter, and making sure that just because we can don't mean we should sometimes. And that, like with the water situation, hopefully, my hope is that the rest of the county will follow suit of the Indian Valley District and have good turnouts, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. And you can complain all you want, but if you don't vote and if you don't make your voice heard to your local representatives,
and see that you get good people in there that are going to pay attention to what's going on.
Right.
Changing gears here, too, I did talk to the town manager, Andrew Morse, and invited him to be on our podcast, in which he said he'd be glad to sometime to come on and answer some of those questions that we had received. Mm-hmm. So, he was very receptive to that.
Look forward to that one. That'll be a good one.
Well, there we go. We got a couple to look forward to. Just try to get some people in here.
Yeah. But for today, that should take care of us. I hope you all have a great week. For the Floyd Main Street Podcast, I'm Lucas, and reminding you to take care of yourselves and take care of the ones you love. Till next time, bye-bye.
From the hollers and the hills where Appalachia shines, a little place called Floyd, where a friend of yours is a friend of mine. Stories unfold in the heart of Appalachia, treasures untold.